Welcome! I would like to show you how to ladder down and latch back up in order to fix two-color brioche. This is one of the most difficult things you could do as a knitter. I personally would rather fix double knitting than fix brioche. But let's see what we can do here. So I have a swatch of two-color brioche, and you see it looks a lot like one-by-one ribbing. I have a column, a wale, a rib, and then I also have a gutter. And when I flip it over, you'll see I have the same thing on the other side, but the colors are reversed. So this side is white dominant and the other side is gray dominant. And as I said, you see that this looks a lot like a row of knit stitches, and this kind of looks like pearls, but not quite. The trick to mending knitting, to fixing mistakes, is to understand the structure of the fabric, to know where the yarn is supposed to be, and then to figure out how to get it where it should be instead. So let's really look here at the structure of two-color brioche. So that white rib on one side, which looks like a bunch of knit stitches on top of each other. When I look at it from the back, yeah, I can see the purl bump there. But I have all these gray yarns running through my column. And if you really look, those gray yarns are sneaky because they go over two rows. See, this gray yarn starts over here, and it goes underneath this ladder and this ladder. And if it goes underneath both of them, then it's got to go back underneath them on the other side. So this is matched over here, and this one is matched over here. And so that yarn goes up and through and all the way down and over here. So it goes through two rows. The other thing to notice about brioche is the stitches are offset on the half drop. And what I mean by that is you can see there's a white stitch here and a white stitch here, and here's a gray stitch. This gray stitch is not only to the right of the white stitches, it is down one row from this stitch, and it is up one row from this stitch. So in knitting, we're used to all the stitches being on the same row, and in brioche, a lot of times they're not. So between that and the going through two rows, I think that's part of why brioche is so difficult to fix and difficult to understand. The structure is very different from most of the other structures we deal with in knitting. So let's see what this looks like when we actually ladder down. So I'm going to slide some stitches over. I worked this swatch using Nancy Marchant's method for working two-color brioche, which is why I have single stitches and I have yarn overs, and if you are observant, you will realize that white is the last row that I worked, which is why the yarn overs are white. You can work this stitch pattern using the knit in the stitch below method. It will give you something slightly different up here on your needles, so just be aware of that if that's the method you're using. Okay, so I am going to drop this column of gray. I'll look up here and I have this white yarn over. I know I'm going to need that at the end. I need to end up with a gray stitch and a yarn over. I have that over here, and I have that over here. So I will park that yarn over on my needles so I can find it later. And now I'm going to drop that gray stitch. So let's see what happens when we let this column unravel. As I said, this gray yarn goes through two ladders. It goes underneath this white and underneath this white, and it latches up on this gray. I'll pick it out. And now here's the next one. And the next one, it goes under 2. And so I'll pick that one out. And then the next one, and again you can see it going underneath 2. And then I'll pick a 4th one out. So part of the trick is if you unpick it slowly, you can see what the structure is. I am going to put a pin in this so it can't go any farther. I think the trick to mending brioche this way is to break the problem down into 2 parts. The first part is to get all of your ladders in the correct orientation. You'll see in a moment when I pop it. What happens is all those ladders tend to get mixed up, and then you're not sure who goes where, who goes under which one. It can be very messy. So I think the trick is first to get everybody in the right location, and then you can just latch it up like you would latch up stockinette. So let's see what this looks like. What you typically end up with on your needles is something that looks like this, now that I've made it pop. And you see I've got a long ladder, this is a shorter ladder. Like, where do things go? I don't know. Right, that's what typically happens. It's disorienting. So let's think it through. Here's why I put a pin in this. This can't go anywhere. This stitch, you can see, goes under these 2 white. So where's the lowest gray ladder? It's up here. And I see it goes under this and under this. So it's going under this one, which means it has to come underneath it again. So let's get it there. And then I know it has to go under one more. And that would make sense because this comes out here, which means there's probably one that has to come out right here. And that's going to be this one. So I will get this one right there. So there it goes. It is underneath 2 ladders. Now I look for the next gray. It's up here. And again, see, if you really look, it's going underneath these 2. So it's got to go back down underneath this one and this one. So we'll get that there. Now at this point I'm running out of fingers to use to hang on to things. So I will get a double pointed needle, or you could use a cable needle. And I will park these stitches. I'm being careful not to twist or turn them. Okay, and then let's see if we can get the other 2. So again, this comes up, it has to go under this, and it has to go under this. Get a hold of it, get it through, put it up on my parking needle, make sure it's not twisted, and then the last one. And so that already goes through this one, so I just need it to go under this one. There we are. And I can look at that, I can see that, well, if I made a mistake, I made the same mistake everywhere because it looks pretty consistent. I will get my hook, I'll take my pin out, and then I can just latch this up the same way I would latch something up in stockinette. Okay. And this goes over here. That's why I left my yarn over on my needle so I could find it. And I'll slide everybody over and we'll take a look at this. And yeah, you can't even see where we did anything. So there you are. The basic rules for brioche. Rule number 1, try not to make mistakes. Rule number 2, use lifelines as much as you can stand it. And then rule number 3, if you need to practice this, if you need to do this, make a swatch. Practice. It took me multiple tries to be able to do this. So I would make a swatch and I would practice like every day for a week in order to get good enough that I could do this on a project. So don't be rushed about it. I hope that this video helped. I also hope that you will have excellent brioche knitting and you will never ever have to do this. Happy knitting!